the most difficult thing about doing it?
As far as I'm concerned,
The hashtag is a way that you can search into one adult one. Peter, I suppose I wanted to just ask you, what would you find as the main benefits of being a sole trader or setting up an actual company?
You're trying to make the decision between the two. Which do you do? Is that basically where we're going? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, let's look at it from the startup point of view, from the very beginning. For me, I don't see any value at all in setting up a limited company to begin, except if you've got, let me tell it like it is for me. My wife has a sole trader business. If she and I have two sole trader businesses, then it's difficult if we're jointly assessed. So from what I did was I set up a limited company. But if somebody is the only business in the household, I see no value in starting a limited company. It adds too much to the overhead. It's too difficult. And the simplicity of being a sole trader, where you set up your business name, you open your business bank account using the certificate you get from the CRO, and you start trading. You register for tax, obviously, in there somewhere, but that's it. You can get into business in a week. Now, that's fantastic, as long as you have customers to meet. But that's why I would be thinking sole trader first. Then perhaps in 3 or 4 years, when the business is turning over $250,000, it becomes a great deal more advantageous to move across to the limited company. Cosmo, talk to me, will you? What do you?
I completely agree with everything that you say with that. I like the fact that you have the opportunity as a sole trader to do almost no admin. You just have to do the billing in and the purchase invoices. You don't have to worry about the CRO. You don't have to worry about directors' meetings. If you're a solo director of a company, you have to have a company secretary. And there's an awful lot more to it. And I am convinced that people should be focusing entirely on sales for their first 6 months. They should do rudimentary record keeping so that everything is nice and neat and tidy for the day when they have to tackle their record keeping. And having a company just adds to the layers of complication. I believe that people should be totally focused on getting sales, and the company dilutes that idea. Does that make sense to you, Ruth?
Yeah. Is there any particular times where there would be a benefit when you're starting off?
If you're even contemplating getting into business with somebody else, particularly somebody that you are having a relationship, a romantic relationship with, you must have a company. To put it lightheartedly, if a couple start off in business together, one of them has to employ the other. And can you imagine the tension that would bring into the relationship? I'm not going to pay you this week, or something along those lines. So it makes an awful lot.
Dear.
Sorry?
Not going to pay you this week, dear.
So can you imagine the tension that would be brought in? And we've seen it a good few times that people who are romantically involved set up a business, and maybe the romance isn't as good, and the business is in trouble, and that's terrible, because even if the romance failed, if they were both directors and shareholders of the company could still go, and one of them could buy the other out and things like that.
Yeah, as long as that's built into the shareholders agreement, which is another layer of stuff you've got to do if there's more than one person involved. There's a really neat way actually to deal with that problem in the very short term, and it's kind of a bit the way society works nowadays. You start off with, I'm a sole trader, you're a sole trader, and we work together as a joint venture. I mean, it's the same way that the N7 got widened. It was two huge companies in a joint venture, but at the end of the project, they were done. They remained completely separate. So, you could start with that, do a joint venture for a year, and if that works, then maybe you bring it into a partnership or a shareholders agreement in a limited company.
Well, I would just jump into one thing which you said there, P, which is, I don't think anybody should get involved in a business partnership.
You reckon it's the kind of ship that sinks, do you?
Well, I think that I think that it's like having a ship with almost no leeboard, a freeboard, should I say.
Yeah.
If a big wave comes, it's sunk. And partnerships, I think, are not a 21st century business thing unless they're legally required. And it was very interesting. I don't know, do you come across them on the courses of people who were in partnerships maybe in the last boom and still paying off the debts of their partner?
Yeah, because the joint and several liability, that's the other beauty of the joint venture. You're severally liable, you know, each person.
Is this the sort of stuff you want to hear, Ruth?
Yeah, yeah.
Any other things that crop up in your mind when we're talking about this?
So if you are setting up as a sole trader, and like Peter said there, you go register your CRO, register your business name, what are the other steps that you would need to set up for a sole trader?
Actually, big flag to just mention, I didn't say it. It's one that always comes to mind. When you go in and you fill in the form on the CRO to register your business name, the one thing you have to do is enable the pop-up. There's a pop-up window, which is the signature page, and it's got a barcode across the top. And if you don't sign that and post it off to the company's office in O'Brien Road in Carlow, then they keep your 20 quid, but they never register your business. And therefore you never get the certificate. You can't open a bank account. But that is the other thing you got to do, is make an appointment to open a bank account.
There's nothing else you need to do except get a good web designer. And I mean that completely seriously. You don't have any other legal obligations. You have to register for tax and have a business name.
Yeah.
And other than that, then you should be getting into the whole thing of getting a domain name, getting your web and all of that type of stuff, which isn't obligatory, but you'd be insane not to. Once you register for tax, you're street legal.
And is there a particular point where you think you should decide, or should you automatically sign up for your VAT at the start? What's your advice around that side?
That's a case-by-case decision for me. I'm not a fan of registering for VAT at the beginning, but the only reason to register for VAT at the start for me is if all your customers are going to, in other words, your business to business, and all your customers are VAT registered and they expect it. That's the only reason to do it. Otherwise, all you are is an unpaid tax collector.
And my take on that is, it's back to the point I was trying to make earlier, that you now have got to do books every 2 months. You now have to keep on top of it all. The thresholds are quite generous for when you start off, and if you keep an eye on your turnover, you can then register for VAT once you're getting near your appropriate threshold. The only thing, there's two aspects to it that I would be always concerned about, which is, what are your customers going to say when you, let us say you're providing a product that you're suddenly going to be 23% more expensive? And the other thing then is, if you're bringing stuff in from the UK or from abroad anywhere, you need to be VAT registered now. As far as I can see, there's no way around it. But what I say on the courses is that unless you're in construction, it's maybe. But if you're in construction, you must register for VAT, because there's a huge profit advantage to you in it. But other than that, you're just giving yourself a whole pile of extra work. And for me, I don't like having piles of extra work. It's simple as that.
You need the time at the start to work in the business rather than spending your time working on the business. You know, you're going to have to do a day's work a week if you don't want to add another day, because that reduces your earning capacity. And as Cosmo suggests, from the very beginning, focus on the money. Focus. Generating cash flow, generating awareness of your new business. Last thought, actually, you mentioned, Cosmo, decent web designer. Your domain name, it needs to do what it says on the tin, especially for sole traders. So whatever your brand is, make sure that it fits. I mean, you know, TalentPool, we are a pool of talent. There it is.
Yeah, business name is
and
very
on
important.
my final thing on the whole area of web design, and we'll bring this talk to a close, but I think there's a problem with people starting businesses, and it's never really talked about, which is they all feel they're great on Facebook, but they actually don't understand marketing. So for me, people should start up, get their business on the road, and then go and find out everything that they can about marketing, not just social media, because we see so many people crashing and burning because they actually don't understand what's being talked about in marketing.
It's very true. If you can't tell your customers what you do and how you do it, no social media can help you.
Well, maybe we should have a talk about marketing sometime with somebody. Okay, listen,
Maybe.
that's it. Thank you very much indeed.